Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Bunch of people sent me an interesting story out of England, and this trial just happened over an incident that took place a while back, because that's how trials work over there also. But from the Daily Mail, a farmer who used a forklift tractor to move a car parked on his land is cleared of dangerous driving and criminal damage after telling the jury, "An Englishman's home is his castle, and my castle starts at the front gate." Several people wrote this for the Daily Mail, Kevin Donald and Rory Tingle. But the farmer who used the forklift tractor to move the car was cleared recently of dangerous driving and criminal damage, and he's a fourth-generation farmer. He's 57 years old, and he insisted he had a lawful right to defend his property, and his barrister argued on the basis of a 400-year-old precedent set by a legendary jurist hundreds of years ago. In a ruling known as Semane's case, Sir Edward established the common law principle that everyone has the right to use reasonable force to defend their home against intruders, and then he issued the famous phrase about a man's home is his castle. Jurors found themselves the task of deciding whether the same principle applied to what happened one day in August last year. The farmer told the court he had politely asked a group of men to leave because their car was blocking his front gate. And things went downhill from there. He said one of the men punched him, and he felt he had to act due to feeling frightened and threatened. Now, one of the men then tried to stop the farmer from flipping his friend's car with the forklift, and he flung himself at the cab of the vehicle and began kicking the tires of the forklift. When police arrived at the scene, and this is available on the internet, although I do not encourage you to go look at it, but if you want to, you can. He says, "effing farmers," and then he drops his pants and exposes his rear end to the camera. Or as we might call it in America, he mooned the camera. So that's the kind of thing that will come back to haunt you at trial. I'm a lawyer, I've got to tell you that. So the farmer's supporters cheered him outside the court after a jury cleared him of all charges after the trial that took 4 days. After the case, his partner, Kate Henderson, read a statement which said the overwhelming support of the local community and people from afar have kept him going during these last 8 months of hell. We welcome the jury's verdict and are thankful for it. Now, mobile phone footage showed the farmer using his tractor with the forklift to lift a car from the lane outside his farm, flip it, and then push it on its side to the road off the farm property. Meanwhile, a shirtless man who had been visiting the area that day and had drunk up to 7 bottles of lager was knocked to the ground by the vehicle's lifting forks. And when you are in a story and you are described as the shirtless man, you may have already made mistakes if you've been drinking prior to that. So the drunk, shirtless man is not the person in the story that you want to be. The farmer told the jury he was punched by one of the men when he first politely asked them to leave as they were blocking access to his farm, and he planned on actually being able to come and go that day, and he couldn't because the car was blocking his ingress and egress. He told the court he was aware of an influx of youths visiting the area that summer, causing antisocial behavior, including littering and damaging of walls. The farmer claimed the younger man punched him twice and busted open one of his lips. He told the court, "I thought it was time to get out of here, and I said, if you don't move it, I will." My mind was racing. I thought we have a bit of a problem here. There's 2 of them who are half my age. I didn't know what they had in terms of weapons or what they were capable of doing. I thought if the car was off the property, that would then be them off the property out of the way. And he said that the action of forklifting and moving the car was a defense of his property and himself. Now, some people are going to split hairs and go, the car was not threatening him. The 2 guys were threatening him. So why do you take action against the car? But that's what he's saying. He's saying, look, I own a piece of property. I live there. there is a car on my property. And these two guys who are associated with the car won't move the car. And by the way, they're attacking me. So he thought, well, if I get the car off my property, maybe that'll solve part of the problem. And by the way, very few people right now disagree with this guy. Most people think he's a hero. So he said, I felt threatened, and an Englishman's home is his castle. And my castle starts at that front gate. Asked by the defense barrister why he did not simply call the police, the farmer replied, I have had quite a number of burglaries at the farm over the years, about 8 in total. We have not had the best response from the police, and there was not time for anyone to be coming, I did not think. There is an unmanned police station about 15 miles away, and the next one would take over an hour to get here. So he's thinking, I got to act now. And if I call the police and sit around and wait, things will just get worse. In his closing argument, his defense attorney gave the origin of the saying, referring back to Sir Edward, which is a legal precedent set in 1604. 1604. Where were you in 1604? Referring to arguments about how Mr. Hooper could have acted differently that day, he quoted Mike Tyson. And this, by the way, is a quote that's been attributed to many people. But Mike Tyson made it his own by making it a boxing metaphor. He said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And that is an interesting way of looking at this. So the point is that, yes, with 20/20 hindsight, when you look back on this and you say, how would you have handled it differently? Well, that's unfair. Because the guy who owns the farm doesn't have 6 months to reflect on how he's going to act when some guy punches him in the face. And I actually am a firm believer in the law, but as a juror, I'm not talking about as a lawyer here, if I was on a jury and I heard that somebody had acted in a particular way that I thought was a little bit over the top, I would still go, gee, why did they act that way? Oh, the other guy punched him in the face twice. Okay, so you punch somebody in the face twice and you're upset by how they reacted. Maybe you shouldn't have punched him in the face twice. So the farmer has no previous criminal record. He had a busy day baling silage and had gone back to the farm for his tea, intending to go on again and carry on working when all this happened. Meanwhile, the people who were involved down at the gate with the car had been drinking with friends and had consumed up to 7 bottles of lager. That's one of them, 7 bottles. And he said he's intending to walk back to a town which was 52 miles away. Apparently when you're drunk, you think you can do that. He told the jury he spotted his friend whose car had suffered a double puncture, a flat tire, which was why they parked on the farmer's lane. So they claimed they were there because they had a flat tire, they had car trouble. But somehow that didn't get explained to the farmer when he came down and said, what's going on here? And they punched him in the face. So in his closing remarks, the prosecutor told the jury that they weren't saying that the farmer was a thug, but that his reactions were utterly irrational on the day. And by the way, I changed a word there. And I'm going to tell you which word I changed and why. Because the prosecutor said that the man's actions were irrational. And I would say his reactions are what we're talking about here. So don't say that you can walk up and punch someone in the face and then say what they did in response to that is an action. It's a reaction. They are responding to getting punched in the face. The judge had outlined various outcomes to the jury regarding the verdict, explaining the law surrounding self-defense and a defendant protecting himself and his property. And the jury came back and said, yep, that's what the guy was doing, protecting his property with his tractor and his forklift. And if you don't like that outcome, perhaps don't go and park on some farmer's driveway blocking his gate after you've been drinking too much, because that might inspire you to punch the man. It might inspire him to go get some farm equipment. So I would like to point out one thing here, though. And this is what's happening with social media. And it's both a good thing and a bad thing. You should be aware of it. But somebody filmed portions of this event. And it's on social media. You can find it. And so while filming portions of this event, it catches the good, the bad, and everything else in between, including the ugly. And at one point in time, one of these guys who's drunk drops trow, as we used to say. He drops his pants and exposes a portion of his body that ain't nobody wants to see. Okay? Now, you might say, well, see, the guy's drunk and he did that. So what? Well, when somebody goes in front of the jury and says, we've got footage of the event. We'd like to show the jury now. Let's show that, because let's face it, I can describe what happened if I was there. You can describe what was happening if you were there. But if someone says, oh, we've got video, suddenly all eyes are focused on turn that screen on and let's watch it. And so it used to be that jurors love photographs, but they love video even more. And so if you can show them video, they're going to be like, hey, shut up. I don't want to hear what you have to say until I see the video. So the video shows the car being flipped and some guy dropping his pants. Now, the jury will be instructed on the law and told, you guys find the facts, and then, based on the jury instructions, make a ruling as to how those facts fit the law. And you might say, Steve, nowhere in the jury instructions does it say if man drops pants, take away points. If man keeps pants on, give points. If man begins fight with no shirt on but drunk, take away. No. But it's human nature that when there's a dispute, and you think of it this way, farmer over here accused of a crime, drunken louts over here, that is what the jury is going to see. The jury, and you can give them jury instructions all day long about whether or not they should consider certain things or not consider other things. When they watch the clip, if it was just of the car being flipped and that looked horribly violent, they might go, ooh, that's bad. And then they see the drunken guy dropping his pants. And they go, okay, maybe there's more going on here than we thought. So when the guy says, this guy was drunk, presumably acting drunk, looking drunk, and punches me in the face after I ask him to move his car off my property, you might start thinking to yourself, I wonder if he's telling me the truth. And then you see the guy drop his pants and you go, suddenly I believe the farmer. So it's one of those things. And don't get me wrong, there's people right now in the audience who are going to say, well, Steve, I think, kids can be kids or whatever. If I was the prosecutor in this case, okay, I'm prosecuting for the Crown. I'm the prosecutor in this case. And I'm gathering up all the evidence, talking to all the witnesses, and I've got a video that shows one of the primary witnesses dropping his pants during this event. I immediately know I've got a credibility problem with that witness. And also, the question is, how serious is this over here if this guy's over here dropping his pants? I mean, and if nothing else, it muddies the waters. It just makes the story goofier. It makes it goofier. And so if you're going into this case as the Crown prosecutor, you know that it's going to entirely hinge on how well the victims come across here when they say, we're driving along, got a flat tire, and while we're working on our flat tire, this crazy farmer comes out of nowhere and starts flipping the car and pushing it off the road. Oh, let's back up a little bit. Did you punch him in the face twice? Yeah. Did you drop your pants during the event? That's a question. As an attorney, I would never want to have to ask my own witness on direct. Did you drop your pants during the event? Because if I don't ask it on cross, it will get asked. Isn't it true, sir? You dropped your pants. So, it's a crazy story, but a good result. A man's home is his castle. Sent to me by many people. Thank you very much. Daily Mail ran the story, version of the story I just told you about. Rory Tingle and Kevin Donald wrote it for Mail Online. Keith, Mark, Michelle, RV, Shelley, David, Paul, Stephen with a PH, TJ, Cormac, and Nick all sent it. Thank you very much, people. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Okay, campers, rise and shine, and don't forget your booties, 'cause it's a cold one out there today.